Okay. August 8th, 2022. So we're talking more than a year and a half since he left office and after these records were being demanded. 102 documents were recovered in a raid after all of those opportunities and all of those requests. And people are saying he had no idea? No. He clearly knew. And we're going to see a little bit more of that right now. Hi, Jeff Mersace, the Plain English Attorney, and welcome to the video. Today, it's a big thing. There are now federal charges against former President Donald Trump, and he has been officially indicted. Now, the difference between this and the last video, we actually have a copy of the indictment, and you can get that full copy at my law firm's website, livingtrustlawfirm.com/downloads. And we're going to be going through certain parts of it just to go over how serious this is and how this isn't just, oh, well, it's a political persecution. No, there's a lot of stuff alleged in the indictment. Now, everybody is innocent until proven guilty. Just like I mentioned in the last video, this was serious enough and there was enough evidence that a grand jury issued the indictment, but that does not mean it's a conviction. But there definitely looks like there's enough substance there to bring it to court. If it wasn't, well, the grand jury wouldn't have given the indictment then. So let's go through some of these parts, again, just to show how serious it is. And let's look at this with a factual lens and look at the different aspects of the law, not how it looks politically. That could be a whole other thing that we don't really need to get into. So, getting right into it, and this is, I believe it's just on page 2. The classified documents Trump stored in his boxes included information regarding defense and weapons capabilities of both the United States and foreign countries. So, it's not just the U.S., but also information we had about other countries. United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attack, and plans for possible retaliation in response to a foreign attack. If you think it's important for educational videos like this to get out there, then please help us out by subscribing to the channel. All right, so right up front, there was a lot of military capabilities and very sensitive information that if it went into the wrong hands, they'd not only know what the U.S. capabilities are, what our allies' capabilities are, but also how we would formulate attacks against a couple of certain countries, or how we would defend ourselves or our allies in the event of attack. So this is really a lot of sensitive military stuff, not just intelligence or spy stuff. The unauthorized disclosure of these classified documents could put at risk the national security of the United States, foreign relations, the safety of the United States military, and human sources in the continued viability of sensitive intelligence collection methods. Now, that's also a very important part, because just having and knowing information and the way it could have been collected, foreign countries where we've got spies and intelligence, they can see, oh, wait, this is this information. The only people who could have disclosed it are here. This is where we need to do a mole hunt, and we could end up losing foreign assets because of it. So let's keep going on that. And this is an important thing because this is where the disclosures were, and we will come back to it and give it a little more context. In July 2021, so this is about 6 months after President Trump left office, at Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, the Bedminster Club, during an audio recorded meeting with a writer, a publisher, and 2 members of his staff, none of whom possessed a security clearance, Trump showed and described a plan of attack that Trump said was prepared for him by the Department of Defense and a senior military official. Trump told the individuals that the plan was highly confidential and secret, and he also said, as president, I could have declassified it, and now I can't, but this is still a secret. So one of the things that's been going around is a possible defense is, I declassified it. All right, well, if he declassified it, then it wouldn't be information that was secret and therefore sensitive, and therefore he wouldn't have been violating any of the Espionage Act provisions because it was no longer classified information. Thing is, he didn't, based on this admission, and that's really why it's important. It's an admission that takes away his defense. Oh, no. These materials were declassified. He's admitting that they weren't in this audio. So let's go back to the second instance. So this was, the first one was for a writer. And if you follow the news, this was someone who was doing a biography or a book about Mark Meadows, Trump's chief of staff. And it's speculated, but not confirmed in this indictment, that one of those 2 assistants to President Trump, the members of his staff, that one of them actually was Mark Meadows, so he would have been in the room. And the second instance was in August or September of 2021, where he showed a representative of his political action committee, who again did not possess a security clearance, a classified map related to a military operation, and told the representative that he should not be showing it to the representative and that the representative should not get too close. So again, this is an admission that he shouldn't be disclosing it. So this is where it's almost like admitting to a crime in the second part, and in that first part, it was, I didn't declassify it, in the acknowledgement there. So again, that becomes very important to the indictment. On March 30th, 2022, the Federal Bureau of Investigation opened a criminal investigation into the unlawful retention of classified documents at the Mar-a-Lago Club. A federal grand jury investigation began the next month. The grand jury issued a subpoena requiring Trump to turn over all documents with classification markings. Trump endeavored to obstruct the FBI and grand jury investigation and conceal his continued retention of classified documents by, among other things. All right, let me stop there for a second. That's strong prosecutor language, but really this indictment got filed by the prosecutor after the grand jury issued that indictment. So this was being put forth to the court. Here's the indictment. We need to criminally charge former President Trump. And yeah, that language is strong and it's coming to the conclusion. But now the rest of the indictment has the instances that's really backing it up. So let's go ahead and dig a little deeper. So his continued retention of classified documents by and among other things, suggesting that his attorney falsely represent to the FBI and grand jury that Trump did not have documents called for by the grand jury subpoena, directing defendant. Okay, so this is Nora. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that name incorrectly. This is the other person who was indicted along with former President Trump because he probably did not make some sort of deal or didn't have enough information to trade in order to make a deal. So this actually is an indictment of both President Trump and this individual, Nauta. So, directing defendant Walty Nauta to move boxes of documents to conceal them from Trump's attorney, the FBI, and the grand jury, suggesting that his attorney hide or destroy documents called for by the grand jury subpoena, providing to the FBI and grand jury just some of the documents called for by the grand jury subpoena while claiming that he was cooperating fully, and causing a certification to be submitted to the FBI and grand jury falsely representing that all documents called for by the grand jury subpoena had been produced, while knowing that, in fact, not all such documents had been produced. All right. Like Watergate, this is the cover-up ends up being worse than the crime itself. So, all right, former President Trump did not have the security clearance for a lot of this. He was not permitted to have these documents. But as we've also seen in the news, something like this inadvertently happened with Joe Biden when he was vice president, with Mike Pence when he was vice president. And a couple of those documents were, again, inadvertently kept with them in their papers. And as soon as it was discovered, it was like, oh, okay, here you go. Now, this is alleging that President Trump ended up really working to conceal the fact that he had these and retain them against the law. And he was getting people to help him to do it, including his attorneys. And now this really comes to the heart of the case. Part of the law is that you have to have, quote, mens rea, the guilty mind, in order to get committed under a lot of crimes. So, again, Vice President Pence and Vice President Biden had some documents when they were former vice presidents. It kind of held over, and they didn't realize that they had them. And as soon as they did, they turned it over. It's like, yeah, I forgot. Here's what it really is. If you're comparing these sets, Vice President Pence and Vice President Biden, with what's being alleged here for former President Trump, if Vice President Pence and Vice President Biden had been driving along, obeying the speed limit, and they got pulled over because there was a taillight that was out, and it's like, oh gosh, I'm sorry. Even for that, as a quote crime, just having it out is a crime, but there is no guilty mind there, and that's what, okay, we're letting you off with a warning, just get it fixed. And they go and they get it fixed. Done. On the other side, this is if someone were driving 85 in a 25 school zone, specifically swerved to run over and kill 3 kids, and they were drunk, and they got pulled over by a police officer, and they were resisting arrest and ended up peeing on the cop car and then saying, oh, well, why aren't you prosecuting these other people? You're prosecuting just me. Look, it's not the same degree by any means. So we're seeing here really a pattern of trying to conceal the fact that he has these documents when he really should have just turned them over. The whole thing might have been avoided. But look, you get a grand jury subpoena, and then you're hiding and shuffling stuff. And it's the shuffling that we're going to end up seeing being a really big thing. So let's move back into it. As a result of Trump's retention of classified documents after his presidency and refusal to return them, hundreds of classified documents were not recovered by the United States government until 2022. So here's where we have some dates about how many of these documents were actually held in his possession in 2022. Nearly 1 year after Trump left office and after months of demands by the National Archives and Records Administration for Trump to provide all missing presidential records, he provided only 15 boxes, which contained 197 documents with classification markings. So that was January. On June 3rd, 2022, so this is almost 6 months later, in response to a grand jury subpoena demanding the production of all documents with classification markings, Trump's attorney provided to the FBI 38 more documents with classification markings. Okay, so he turned over 38 more documents. On August 8th, pursuant to a court-authorized search warrant, the FBI recovered from Trump's office and a storage room at the Mar-a-Lago Club 102 more documents with classification markings. Okay. August 8th, 2022. So we're talking more than a year and a half since he left office and after these records were being demanded. 102 documents were recovered in a raid after all of those opportunities and all of those requests. And people are saying he had no idea? No. He clearly knew. And we're going to see a little bit more of that right now. In January 2021, as he was preparing to leave the White House, Trump and his White House staff, including Nada, packed items including some of Trump's boxes. Trump was personally involved in this process. Trump caused his boxes containing hundreds of classified documents to be transported from the White House to the Mar-a-Lago Club. All right, so he was personally overseeing a lot of this and working with the people to get these boxes done and out to the Mar-a-Lago Club when his presidency was over. From January through March 15th, 2021, some of Trump's boxes were stored in the Mar-a-Lago Club's white and gold ballroom in which events, gatherings took place. So this was a spot that was open, and it wasn't like there were personnel who were screened to be in there and they were, given security background checks to be exposed to this information. But all of that documentation and information was right there in a spot that was open to anyone who was in that Mar-a-Lago Club. Now, they're not saying whether this room was locked up the rest of the time, and there's nothing there saying that they were actually being guarded. Now, one of the things, so it wasn't being guarded, and anyone who was in the club could just go in there, and there were a lot of members of that club. There were events being held at the club, and we're talking thousands of people had access to it during that month and a half that it was in that ballroom. So after text exchanges between Trump employee 1 and employee 2, so this was when they were being moved out of the ballroom. Some of the boxes were moved from the business center to a bathroom and shower in the Mar-a-Lago Club's lake room. That was, and you can see that very poor picture. There were some good pictures and memes that ended up on the internet. And look, you can say whatever your political opinion is. Somebody titled this as Bed Bath and Beyond a Reasonable Doubt. You got to admit, that's a pretty funny joke. But here it's just in a bathroom. So anyone could get into those boxes. And in May 2021, Trump directed that a storage room on the ground floor of the Mar-a-Lago Club be cleaned out so it could store his boxes. Now, this is important. The hallway leading to the storage room could be reached from multiple outside entrances. including one accessible from the Mar-a-Lago Club pool patio through a doorway that was often kept open. The storage room was near the liquor supply closet, linen room, lock shop, and various other rooms. Okay, so these classified documents were put into a storage room that was open from the outside of the building. So from the pool patio. So if you could get to the pool, you could get into these documents, and that door was frequently just left open. So there's like zero security. Remember, we're talking about nuclear secrets here. We're talking about military assets and deployments and what some of these plans of attack or defense would be for us and our allies. And it's just sitting there in that storage room where anyone could get to it. This is why this is such a serious thing. In May 2021, Trump caused some of his boxes to be brought to his summer residence at the Bedminster Club, like the Mar-a-Lago Club. After Trump's presidency, the Bedminster Club was not an authorized location for storage, possession, review, display, or discussion of classified documents. All right, I want to point out here that because there's stuff that's going on in the news, and particularly coming from President Trump, and this sounds like it's bluster and this is all political. No, it's actually when he's saying, why aren't you prosecuting Joe Biden? Why aren't you prosecuting Mike Pence? What he's actually potentially doing is saying this is a selective prosecution. So, everybody gets away with this. Therefore, it's not a big deal, but you're coming after me because you don't like me. So that actually is a potential defense. It's just he's saying it in such a blustering political manner that even a lot of the pundits are just dismissing it. But yeah, he's kind of hinting at a potential defense for selective prosecution. But these are, like I said, these are not really equivalent situations with Joe Biden, Mike Pence, and now former President Trump. So these locations that he's discussing, when he says, well, Joe Biden had all of these boxes, some of them in this place. And in the past, I haven't seen it recently, but it might have been out there, talking about President Obama had all of these hundreds of thousands of documents that he had. No. When he says he had them in Chicago, they were in a storage facility leased by the National Archives. They were the ones who had possession of it, and this was strictly for screening to see what could go into his presidential library. So it wasn't at an unsecure, unauthorized facility. All of those were at authorized facilities. So that kind of negates that defense a bit. It does leave it a little more open when you're talking about, some stuff was found in Joe Biden's garage, office and papers storage place, as well as another nonprofit that he was working on. I think it was a think tank. And for former Vice President Mike Pence's residence, that does leave that open a little bit for a defense. So, all right. So, again, going back to Section 6 on page 2, this is the disclosures. So this was sensitive, secret information, classified information, disclosed to people who weren't authorized. So in Bedminster, this is where there was the audio recording with the writer and 2 members of Trump's staff, and none of them had the security clearance for this information. He showed and described a plan of attack that Trump said was prepared for him by the Department of Defense and a senior military official. And yes, he admitted, as president, I could have declassified it. And again, a second instance, also at Bedminster, showing someone from his political action committee who didn't have those security clearances, showing them a classified map related to a military operation, and then said, hey, don't say anything about this. I'm not supposed to be showing it to you. so now here's where we're starting to get into the subpoena and the things that happened around it. So in this, we see the timeline of events, and that becomes very important because it really is intentionally hiding stuff. So when we go into it, we're going to see that there was a subpoena. There was going to be the search by the attorneys so they could certify, hey, we did a search of all of this. And in the days leading up to that, a whole bunch of boxes got moved out so they wouldn't be part of the search. Between Trump's May 23rd meeting with Trump Attorney 1 and Trump Attorney 2 to discuss the May 11th subpoena and June 2nd, when Trump Attorney 1 returned to the Mar-a-Lago Club to review the boxes in the storage room, Nada, remember that's the person who's also being indicted, removed at Trump's direction a total of approximately 64 boxes from the storage room and brought them to Trump's residence. So on May 24th, between 5:30 p.m. and 5:38 p.m., Nada removed 3 boxes from the storage room. On May 30th, 2022, at 9:08, Trump and Nada spoke by phone for approximately 30 seconds, and then between 10:02 a.m. and 11:51 a.m., Nada removed a total of approximately 50 boxes from the storage room. On May 30th, 2022, same day, 12:33 p.m., a Trump family member texted Nada. So here's where we're getting into some proof. So there is actual text messages showing that these boxes are being moved on that date. And that becomes an important thing. So you can't really say, oh, well, we had no idea. These boxes were just there. No, they were being moved to conceal them. Good afternoon, Walt. Happy Memorial Day. I saw you put boxes in POTUS room. Just FYI, and I will tell him as well. Not sure how many he wants to take on Friday on the plane, meaning going out to Bedminster. We will not have room for all of them. The plane will be full with luggage. Thank you. Now, it's not disclosed who it is. It says it's a Trump family member. It's very likely that this is Melania Trump because, again, it's the moving of the residences for the summer. And if it's a family member, that really doesn't sound like it's Trump's minor son, Barron, would be texting like that. And all of the other kids don't live there. So it very likely was Melania. And he replied, good afternoon, ma'am. Okay, so again, not Don Jr. or Eric, possibly Ivanka, but no, they weren't living there. Thank you so much. I think he wanted to pick from them. I don't imagine him wanting to take the boxes. He told me to put them in the room and that he was going to talk to you about them. And then on June 1st at 12:52 p.m., Nada removed approximately 11 boxes from the storage room. So not all of them went to Bedminster, but some of them did. Okay, going on. On June 2nd, 2022, the day that Trump Attorney 1 was scheduled to review the boxes in the storage room. So this was all planned. Here's on June 2nd, they're going to review the boxes in the storage room. Trump spoke with Nada on the phone at 9:29 a.m. for approximately 24 seconds. He got the phone records. Later that day, between 12:33 and 12:52 p.m., Nada and an employee of the Mar-a-Lago Club moved approximately 30 boxes from Trump's residence to the storage room. So, in sum, between May 23rd, 2022 and June 2nd, 2022, before Trump Attorney 1's review of Trump's boxes in the storage room, Nada, at Trump's direction, moved approximately 64 boxes from the storage room to Trump's residence. And I think this is an important point because they were in the residence. Trump had access to them and could have pulled stuff out of those boxes at that point. And let's see what happens after that. 64 boxes from the storage room to Trump's residence, and then brought to the storage room only approximately 30 boxes. So less than half of them. But those boxes had every opportunity to be looked through. Neither Trump nor Nauta informed Trump Attorney 1 of this information. So they had this attorney who was supposed to be conducting a search, and they had moved boxes and concealed it from the attorney that was supposed to be doing the searches of the boxes in the storage room. So they had moved a bunch of stuff, gone through it, and put stuff back in anticipation of the search. Okay. That says mens rea. That says guilty mind to me. Let's keep going. After Trump Attorney 1 finished sealing the red weld folder. All right, let me talk about that. We skipped a couple of pieces in this because we can't go through the whole entire indictment. Like I said, it's on the website at livingtrustlawfirm.com/downloads if you want to go through and read it yourself, and I encourage you to do that. The attorney who had gone through the boxes, Trump Attorney 1 in this indictment, found stuff that was classified, took it and put it into the red weld folder, whatever that is, put them in there, and then sealed it up. So, okay, it's sealed. But then let's take a look and see exactly what happened there. After Trump Attorney 1 finished sealing the red weld folder containing the documents with classification markings that he had found inside Trump's boxes, Nauta took Trump Attorney 1 to a dining room in the Mar-a-Lago Club to meet with Trump. After Trump Attorney 1 confirmed that he was finished with his search of the storage room, Trump asked, "Did you find anything? Is it bad? Good?" Trump and Trump Attorney 1 then discussed what to do with the red weld folder containing documents with classification markings and whether Trump Attorney 1 should bring them to his hotel room and put them in a safe there. During that conversation, Trump made a plucking motion as memorialized by Trump Attorney 1. He made a funny motion as though, well, okay, why don't you take them with you to your hotel room, and if there's anything really bad in there, like, pluck it out. And that was the motion he made. He didn't say that, but that's what the Trump Attorney 1 was getting from the conversation when he asked, should I take it to my hotel room? And he made that plucking motion. That evening, Trump Attorney 1 contacted the Department of Justice and requested that an FBI agent meet him at the Mar-a-Lago Club the next day, June 3rd, so that he could turn over documents responsive to the May 11 subpoena. Okay, so they found these classified documents, and now they're ready to turn them over. But let's see exactly what happens. Also that evening, Trump Attorney 1 contacted another Trump Attorney 3, and asked her if she would come to the Mar-a-Lago Club the next morning to act as a custodian of records and sign a certification regarding the search for documents with classification markings in response to the May 11th subpoena. Trump Attorney 3, who had no role in the review of Trump's boxes in the storage room, agreed. So this attorney, who did not do a search, came down to Mar-a-Lago and signed off that, yes, I did a search and we didn't find anything. Okay, so this is why a lot of Trump's attorneys are having to get attorneys, because they get talked into doing stuff like this. The next day, on June 3rd, at Trump Attorney 1's request, Trump Attorney 3 signed a certification as the custodian of records for the office of Donald J. Trump and took it to the Mar-a-Lago Club to provide it to the Department of Justice and FBI. In the certification, Trump Attorney 3, who performed no search of Trump's boxes, had not reviewed the May 11th subpoena and had not reviewed the contents of the Redweld folder, stated, among other things, that based upon the information that had been provided to her, a diligent search was conducted of the boxes that were removed from the White House to Florida. This search was conducted after receipt of the subpoena in order to locate any and all documents that were responsive to the subpoena, and any and all responsive documents accompany this certification. So, these statements were false. Again, this attorney got dragged into this and ended up being a part of this with no actual search, but she signed off and certified that she had. Among other reasons, Trump had directed NADA to move boxes before Trump Attorney 1's June 2nd review so that many boxes were not searched and many documents responsive to the May 11th subpoena could not be found, and in fact were not found by Trump Attorney 1. Shortly after Trump Attorney 3 executed the false certification on June 3rd, 2022, Trump Attorney 1 and Trump Attorney 3 met at the Mar-a-Lago Club with personnel from the Department of Justice and FBI. Trump Attorney 1 and Trump Attorney 3 turned over the Redweld folder containing documents with classification markings, as well as the false certification signed by Trump Attorney 3 as custodian of records. Trump, who had delayed his departure from the Mar-a-Lago Club, joined Trump Attorney 1 and Trump Attorney 3 for some of the meeting. Trump claimed to the Department of Justice and FBI that he was an open book. He claimed he was an open book, yet he had documents and boxes moved from the storage place that was supposed to be searched into the residence where they could have been searched through and stuff taken out, and then half of them, only less than half, were moved back to the storage room for the search. The other boxes were not searched, and they got an attorney to sign a certification that there was nothing responsive to the subpoena, and yet they turned in that Redweld folder, which did have the stuff that the first attorney did find out of those 30 boxes, which, again, less than half the boxes. So stuff was shuffled and moved around intentionally, and the Department of Justice and Special Counsel Jack Smith were able to get all of the documentation and footage to see these things happening, and that's why there's an indictment. Like I said earlier, this becomes more about the cover-up of it than even the crime itself, just like Watergate. So trying to conflate this as being the same thing as some other officials, in particular Joe Biden when he was vice president and Mike Pence when he was vice president, having access to some of this stuff and it just getting put in with other records. And the second they found it, they gave it back. This is showing a complete system of trying to hide it and concealing it and knowing that those classified records are there. So yeah, this is pretty serious. Now, look, you can have whatever political leanings you want. This is an analysis of what's in the indictment. As I said at the beginning, I'm going to repeat it again. He's been indicted. He's being charged with a crime. But he is innocent until proven guilty. But this seems like enough evidence to charge him. And to say otherwise just doesn't seem genuine. It seems very disingenuous to say, oh, there's nothing there, this is politically motivated. Look, the facts are the facts. We can't have politicians just run for office and that becomes a blanket immunity from committing crimes. That, oh, you can't prosecute me no matter what crime I do because I'm running for office. That's just not the way the justice system works. All right, so I hope you at least found that information entertaining, a little bit enlightening. I encourage you to take a look through the indictment yourself. Go ahead and download it. And please comment below if you think that we should go a little bit more deeply into this. Otherwise, we can just move on, and the next video will be a lot more about estate planning and other stuff like that. So as I always tell my clients, please stay safe, plan ahead, and enjoy life. And whatever you do, make it a great day.